All right, you're good.
I think we're about to pitch a new constitution for the Urban Games League. There's a lot of new changes. Well, first off, the one is that we got rid of the bylaws that were a lot of conflicting with the actual constitution because they changed more than the actual constitution.
It was also like 30 pages long of crap we don't need.
And contradicting.
Like, I can't tell you how much crap it took trying to revise those things.
We took
was
what
not worth
we
it.
needed from the bylaws and put it into the constitution.
Okay.
What else? And we also changed, let's see.
Well, more importantly, we changed
We changed the coordinator and admin assistant to president and vice president. And changed the membership description to...
basically, okay, so I like wrote a lot of this back in my term because I just haven't got around to pushing it. But basically, like the biggest thing, like membership, this is another thing, one thing to change is, like basically with membership you had to like play 3 games and you had to have an account on the website. But honestly, the only thing that would really work for, because that one doesn't work for H3Z and it doesn't work if you don't play H3Z. Like if you play DAG exclusively, you know, you're not going to be anywhere on the website in terms of like having an account on that necessarily. So now it's more, you know, open to almost anyone effectively.
I feel like it pretty much just means that you're an actual small state student, faculty, or staff, and then you have a waiver on our database. That's pretty much it. Let's see. We changed president, vice president, and then instead of official, sponsored, and pickup games, it's tier 1, 2, and 3, and they're more defined of what it takes to be a tier 1, 2, and 3, and what they can do, what they cannot do, and how they can move up and down throughout the tiers. What else?
This is just copy pasted from the bylaws for the most part, except streamlined a bit, honestly.
Yeah. We also... Okay.
We actually changed the webmaster and we added in a new position called the parliamentarian. The webmaster originally was one of our top 3, with the coordinator, assistant coordinator, and the webmaster. When this was made, the webmaster was a member of UGL, and since that person has graduated, we've kind of just gone down to the computer science department and begged anyone who was willing to be a webmaster. Because of that, we felt like they didn't deserve a ton of power to be, because technically the webmaster was able to vote, veto, and deny funding. And if you're not a member of UGL, that's kind of a dick thing to do. So we also added in the parliamentarian, which after some of the legal issues and presidential issues we've had this semester, he or she will be mostly just our legal department, if you will. They will be on the exec board, appointed by the exec board, will have no voting authority at all, and are mostly there to clear up any legal issues and to say if something is constitutional or not. If there is a disagreement, they are able to rule one way or another.
Let's see. And then it sort of like talks about tier 1,
Yeah,
2, and then parliamentarian, which discusses that. And we
Oh.
also added special event moderators,
You want to take that one?
Administrator.
administrators.
You did that one, so.
Basically, for H3Z Invitational, it was never really fully defined in the Constitution how that works, because it was only in the bylaws. Basically, how it worked was the H3Z admin could appoint a invitational admin. And it was never really clearly defined how they were chosen, but it's now an actual thing in the Constitution now, and it's not just for H3Z. It's for basically any tier 1 game. You can, if you have some big event, like some sort of big charitable event, something that's really big, you can appoint your own person who basically answers to you, and you have, you have to like sort of police this administrator and guide them so that they can host their event with tier 1 game funding, basically.
It doesn't, like you said, that doesn't have to be the Dusk Till Dawn or the Invitational. If CTF wants to have a fundraising charity event or tournament, they can elect someone if they are not able to. Also, you can see that we have moderators highlighted, and it's mostly just Part C, which is the moderator must be a member of the UGL.
That was never defined at all.
We've also changed earlier, if you couldn't tell when it said member and non-member, there's a difference between a member and a player being such people like alumni or guests. That way we can clearly define the difference there.
Let's keep on going. Oh, this is another thing.
That was a fun one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was written in the Constitution that basically all elections must happen 4 weeks after HVZ. Now the problem with that is, well, what happens if somehow, you know,
HBC dies.
yeah,
Or
HVZ
we
dies,
need an
or it
emergency
gets
election.
moved, or it gets moved like all the way to like the very tail end of the semester. Like you have very little time to do election proceedings. So now it's basically, you know, HVZ agnostic. So it's just a hard 4 weeks.
And then
Yes.
the important one is that in the previous constitution, it stated that we could not collect dues from them members in order to fund our events and other various things that we need funding for. And in this one, that it says that that we can charge dues to our members. That would be only one charge per semester.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's set so, let's say hypothetically, UGL needs some money, which, hey, what do you know, situation. Since the university will not give any funding to a club or group that cannot perform its own income means, this allows us to, let's say if we need to, we could do a $5 semesterly due. That $5 allows you into every game and every invitational, anything you would like involving the UGL. So if you actually break that up, that's less than $1 a game for a semester. Now, of course, we had not decided if it will be 5, it's never defined. It's set for the exec board if we need one to clearly define one later on.
Also, we're probably, before this, like, you're one of the very few clubs who never charge dues. Like, even like the Rinky Dink Finance Club charges $30 dues. I mean, really.
The American Sign Language Club is $20 dues a
Yeah.
semester, so that's a fun one.
Yeah, it's honestly, we're pretty large. For the fact that we're not charging dues is pretty stupid, honestly.
And if you couldn't tell, these dues do go right back into the games. What happens when HVZ now has a $500 budget instead of a $0 budget? It kind of allows the game to expand and allows you to have more stuff. CTF doesn't need crap people.
That's, yeah, go ahead. If you want.
We wanted to specify, like, it was really hard for us to specify between tier 1 and tier 2, and that we felt that, that tier 1 has a lot of privileges, and therefore that tier 1 game should give back and run at least one campus-wide charitable event endeavor per academic semester.
Or fundraiser. Depends.
Fundraiser, yeah.
This also doesn't limit to where like DAC has to do its own, CTF does its own. If they want, they can pull together, do a combination one, anything like that.
But yeah, the idea was is that basically tier 1 games could basically, you know, there are elected positions, they get priority funding for and priority resources. They should be forced to, you know, pay it back, honestly. That's how I've seen it, although it hasn't really happened, because like with DAG before, DAG, I mean, has DAG ever done fundraising before you?
I don't think they have.
No. And it's been, you know, in all my time here, it's like never happened. So honestly, it's more of a means of giving back, so.
And that one on the HBC needs the most funding. Also, tier 3 games that, let's see, that it was never mentioned of like, you know, sometimes that we have tier 3 games or like pickup games where that we don't really have any games on there, so they just kind of sit on the exec board. And if they have at least one event per semester to hold position and keep being a game on our game roster or whatever, that would sort of like, you know, keep them more encouraged to actually have events rather than just sit on the board the entire semester.
So that would basically be Foursquare?
Foursquare, World War III,
Laser tag.
Yes.
I have one question. How are we going to determine what philanthropy per year to support? Who makes that decision collectively?
I think that would probably
We've
be
never
next.
specified, I mean, generally, you're on the exec board, so you would probably just bring up, hey, the CTF's doing their fundraiser for kids leukemia, or such, you know, or we're gonna go with the Greek life, because, you know, Greek life and UGL are always a great publicity, we like that. So it's the administrator's choice.
Yeah. Let's see what else. We had sections for special events.
Yeah, you can keep on going also.
Um,
That's people.
Where is this new drop section?
Yeah, just choose one. Ah, here we go. Whoop. All right.
Removal from office section.
Basically, that was not very clarified.
There was never really something in there at all for removal office.
After me and a couple other people spent a very large time looking through this, that's when we realized we never defined really how to remove someone from office very well. So now we have an established investigation committee, and as you can see, that committee will be led, and the leader of it, I guess you will be the parliamentarian. And it says there that they will make a group of people for this. They will make a group, and those people on that group are not allowed to be in the exec board. They're going to do a basic investigation. We're going to figure out what went wrong, what rules were broken, the repercussions like that. All right? So then after that's called and it's completed, they will report their findings to the exec board, and the exec board will, when the individual's in question, no later than 1 week before an exec board meeting to come, so then we can hear their side and we have our final quorum of whether.
What if the parliamentarians corrupt?
Well then,
What if
it's bad
anything's
Because
corrupt?
then you could just like arrange a group of your friends to,
Regardless of how it is, they still have to bring their findings to the exec board, and the exec board then brings that person still into question before the vote happens, so. If the parliamentarian's just like, hey guys, I think this person's a dummy, and comes back with their findings saying this person's a dummy, we're gonna vote them out.
we did basically the same thing for banning a player.
And then, like, what happens if such and such is removed from office or whatever, it's just like, what action's gonna be taken if it's like the notice or whatever.
Yeah.
It's basic chain, president
And then,
leaves, okay,
that ratification.
alright.
Can we look at that a little bit more,
Yeah, I was gonna go through
like
it.
on camera and stuff,
Yeah.
just to clear this up?
So I can,
Because
Alright.
this is important.
so let's say that the president quits, fires, retires, dies, anything. It'll then go down to the vice president. The vice president can say yay or nay if they wish to. If so, the vice president says, yes, I want to. The vice president will move up. And I believe, let's see, how do we say that for the vice then?
And vice removed from office resign and become president. The executive board would put a new vice president to serve on the
The exec board will then put a new vice in to fill that out. If either of those say no, then it goes into an actual, once again, either placing or election, depending on how far we are into the semester.
Yeah.
And I believe we skipped over earlier, but should be explained since you're probably wondering, the difference between tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, and how to move in those. So I know we had that in
I
there.
have one more question.
Yeah.
Just before that, when we talk about banning a player, there's obviously moments where players get like taken out for a few days. Is
Mhm.
that actually covered now? Because there's been moments where that's not jurisdiction.
Yeah, how it's worked is that admins can, like, if they see something bad in their game, admins can then decide whether or not it's serious enough to bring it up to the board, honestly. And so, like, it's one thing to be kicked out from a game, it's another to be kicked out from UGL entirely.
Yeah,
So-
generally our banning of a player section is more of banning from UGL than instead of a specified game.
So if it's like a real problem, you know, I mean, if it's someone who just gets, you know, shitty during HVC, that's one thing, right?
We actually have that section of the changing of tiers that
Yes.
we all spent like so much time
Okay.
on.
Here. Yep. There you go. Right here.
There it is.
Yep.
So in each of the tiers, there is the requirements for that tier, such as, I believe to go from, is it 3 to 2, it's like about a 30-member membership. Once you've reached all of tier 2 status requirements, then you are able, or did we change it?
Yeah, I think
We don't make much of it. And it's scrolling so much. You guys are scrolling so much I can't read.
yeah.
Regardless, to switch from the tier 3 must meet all of tier 2s and then apply on the exec board to move up. That's then an executive decision will be made by a vote if they will or if they not, or if they not. English, thank you.
Recording's cool.
Once it's, generally, if you've met the requirements, I don't think there will ever be a situation unless it's like, I'm a dick, that you won't. So you'll move up to that section and then you just have to hold that section. If not, there is a possibility for a downgrade and vice versa.
And, yeah. Yes.
So, like, if a game is in a situation where it might need to get downgraded to the next tier, would there be like a time limit where you say, okay, within this amount of time, change whatever, and you don't get downgraded, or?
It's basically a
Well, if you read
criteria-based-
change of rules, section point 2 under section 5, It generally won't, but however, participation,
Yeah,
interest,
so-
or,
Yeah, good, but,
well, see, it was on the screen.
sorry.
It was like while we,
Take the mouse from him.
yes. So if you could read 5.2 there, generally it's stuff like your game's been dead for a semester and no one's played it, and then there might be there'll probably be a thing like, hey, we need you to get it back up and running, and if not, then the decision might be to can the game, or to have it reopened later time.
Like,
It's gonna be a very hard situation to actually drop something down a level, because it's not made to. It's more of a escalator, if you will, instead of a ladder. You'll be more likely to move up than it is to go down.
Okay.
I know escalators do go down too.
Yeah.
Not
Any
going on, not
questions
escalator.
at all before we wrap this up?
Yes, any questions?
Because we should have had it anyway.
this will also be on the ballot, I think, right?
This will be on the ballot, and the link will be to it for your viewing pleasure. If you want all that fun stuff, you can look at as much as you want.
Perfect.
Have you guys amended how to who can run for office?
It is stated that it just has to be a member and not a player, which a member was defined as someone who, if there was a due, had paid the due. If there wasn't a due, it had to be somebody that was a member of Ball State, was in the games, such like that. It couldn't just be like some random Joe just came in one day and was like, I'm gonna run.
Simple amendment I would put on there for, and just, you know, to cover yourself, that they'll say, a simple saying that they'll also have to be a member in the fall, or in the semester that there will be a.
I think that's a given.
Well, it's a given,
because
but it's
there's-
not legalized yet.
I
In
think I
this
saw
one,
it
if
there.
you're not a member of Ball State, as if, like, let's say for
If you're
instance,
not
you
a student.
graduate, if you graduate or such, then you're no longer a member of Ball State, which means you no longer meet the member criteria and you're now into the player criteria.
But you're still a member of that semester that you're running, that's the thing.
But the qualifications.
Everything takes
can't-
effect the semester it's supposed
Your
to.
qualifications are irrelevant.
Yes. Let's say, for instance, someone's graduating this semester, but they're running for next semester. Under the Constitution,
I wonder who would do that.
you're under, it would be the term of when you start. If you graduate next semester and you're trying to run for next semester, you're no longer legally allowed to run whole position.
Any other questions? We should wrap this up.
Yes. Well, that's it. Thank you guys for your time.
Well, alright, man. Time to go.